So Tsar Nicholas II, he abdicated in February 1917, and we have a provisional government that takes over and rules in place of the Tsar for a very short period, by the way. So as I said, the provisional government started to govern Russia in February 1917. That was what we call the February Revolution. And then we had, very quickly, another revolution in Russia in 1917. This will be the one that is perhaps for you, if you know a little bit about Russian history, would be the more famous one. And that was the October Revolution of 1917. Well, who took over here? Well, it was a chap called Vladimir Lenin and his relatively small group of communists, also known as the Bolsheviks. And I will more often than not refer to Lenin in this lesson, and in future lessons, Stalin's party, as the Bolsheviks. I may sometimes call them the Communist Party as well, but Bolsheviks, in my opinion, is perhaps the better term to use. Well, anyway, Lenin and his relatively small group of communists, also known as the Bolsheviks, they seized the capital city of Russia at this time, which was called Petrograd. Today it is called St. Petersburg, and declared a socialist dictatorship. Now might be a good time to make a little bit of a digression and just mention the different names that the city of St. Petersburg has gone through. The city was founded in the early 1700s as St. Petersburg. And for most of its history, it has been known as St. Petersburg. During World War I, it got renamed as Petrograd. The reason for that was St. Petersburg, or the word Petersburg, sounds German. And the Russians, because they were fighting Germany in World War I, they did not like the fact that their capital city sounded German, so it was rechristened Petrograd, which really means the same thing. It means Peter's city, but it sounds more Russian. And then during most of the Bolshevik period, and that's from 1917 to 1991, the city was renamed Leningrad. Now, it was renamed Leningrad in the 1920s after Lenin died. So it was known as Leningrad up until the early 1990s, and then it was renamed St. Petersburg. So we've gone full circle. It's called St. Petersburg today. The Bolsheviks successfully captured Petrograd on the 25th of October, 1917. And like I said previously, you will come across books where the dates will be different. It'll say November something, and that's because those books are using the Gregorian dates, so the dates from Western Europe. Well, the Bolsheviks, they captured the city and they captured the provisional government. The provisional government was staying in the Winter Palace, which was the palace where the czars stayed during the wintertime. That's why it's called the Winter Palace. They had various summer palaces as well. And that's where the provisional government was. They were arrested, and that was the end of the provisional government. If you ever look at propaganda paintings of this assault on the Winter Palace, it will look all really exciting, and you'll see smoke and cannons and people pointing guns and all of that. It was practically bloodless. The provisional government was very much a spent force by this time. They were completely unpopular. Nobody was prepared to fight for the provisional government. That's not to say, by the way, that the Bolsheviks themselves were popular. What they were a small clique or a small group of professional revolutionaries who we will discover very briefly were highly ruthless. That's to say, they were prepared to kill, murder, and torture, and they were very dedicated. So they overthrew the provisional government. However, at this point, in October 1917, the Bolsheviks only controlled Petrograd. They did not control the rest of the country. And if you look at a historical map of the Russian Empire in 1917, or indeed even Russia today, the country is vast. It's a huge country. And so the Bolsheviks need to then control the rest of the country, which meant, of course, because most people did not want to be Bolsheviks, most people didn't even know who Vladimir Lenin and the Bolsheviks were. That meant the Bolsheviks, if they wanted to control the whole country and take it over, they would have to fight their enemies, which was most of Russia. And that is exactly what the Bolsheviks did. And so what we have for 4.5 years is a Russian civil war.